Riot 9.11 gets Jitsi with it.
GIMP developers launch a YOLO release.
Linus turns out to be allergic to apples.
And Atomic reviews the GPD Pocket.
It's a great day for Linux, everyone. Let's go. Welcome back to Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, where we take that midweek break, sit back, relax, and crack open a cold penguin. That probably is not a good idea, is it, Pedro?
No.
No.
Don't crack penguins.
Well, I mean, it would have to be a cold penguin, though, wouldn't it?
They're all cold. They all live in Arctic, Antarctic regions.
Are you trying to accuse all penguins of being soulless creatures of nightmare fuel? Well, come on, they have feelings too.
I mean, Linux does have a penguin as a mascot, so...
Hey, beautiful people, how's it going? I'm Vince Stone, joined every week. Oh, come on. Cheating. All right, this way. That is
Yeah.
one Pedro Mateus, and we are going to get into the business. What's going on this week, man? Anything fun? Do you find anything exciting?
Not much. I did buy a pair of Bluetooth headphones, which would be perfect if it weren't for the fact that the bass is stupidly loud when compared to everything else. It's all bass all the time, and they crimp my ears. The pads are a little too small, and they crimp the edge of my ears.
Huh. Could be worse, I guess, but, you should definitely try them out with this latest Riot IM client.
Ooh, yeah, no, this is not just an IM client. This is a full-on cooperation platform, whatever you want to call it. It's based on the matrix.org, the decentralized network. And what it is the equivalent of a, let's see, Google Docs. Imagine Google Docs, but instead of just...
I'm just going to stop you right there, because my first thought when I got to this point, for your audio listeners, if you go back and check out the video, you're like, why is there a Discord screenshot in here?
It's not. It looks like one, but it's not. It's got a bunch of different tools, and it actually does let you use, now that they have the widgets in, you can set one widget to run Google Docs and collaborate with everyone in the same room on the same document. At the same time, you can have a Jitsi room and have people all talk in a conference call type situation, all while still having the text-only chat and a bunch of other tools. They actually introduced a lot of new widgets and emojis for some reason.
Yeah, I think it definitely looks kind of neat, but I had heard of this. I've personally not used this, and admittedly, that my brain had that reaction when I first saw it. I was like, why is this Discord? Because that looks a lot like Discord. I'm just saying, I don't know chicken and egg. What came first on that? The Jitsi is what got my attention, because we use Jitsi for video when we can and where we can. And if that works, that's a very welcome addition. And what do you think? What is this supposed to be? Is this Discord for people attempting to adult a little harder than...
Yeah, kind of like Slack, but with more functionality.
That's it's a thing. And I mean, the widgets are neat. The ops, the admin area where you can get the tops and the stats and all that running, that's kind of cool. Being able to add YouTube and stuff like that. That is something I do kind of worry about, because once you start adding that stuff, especially with Slack or anything like that, it's the same thing as adding a bunch of bots, man. You're not getting work done. I mean, you're playing with bots all day.
You can pretend to be doing work, but yeah, the moment you get a bunch of people together at work, at home, whatever, it's just going to, well, if you've been on our Discord chat at any point, you know exactly what it turns into.
So something that kind of caught me this week was I looked at it, and I was like, really? We're doing this again? We're really going to try to do this again? And it said, yeah, we're going to do this again. It's not going to work, but here it is. Purism. Librem 5, a security and privacy focused Linux phone that this thing is never going to get funded. But Pedro, you think this is more
oh, this is market research.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to be market research because $1.5 million? What? I mean, you're not exactly Mark Shuttlesworth. You can't go on Indiegogo and say, give me $32 million.
All right, okay, I'm sorry. For $100, support us. Get listed in our original backer page at a t-shirt.
A t-shirt for $100. There's a word for that. I think it starts with an F and ends in UCK.
Okay, $2.99. $2.99 for a dev kit. So,
okay, so you at least get some hardware at that point. Neat.
And estimated delivery for the dev kits, you're looking at June 20. Tell me about it. I mean, what would be the benefit here?
Well, the benefit, honestly, is the fact that you get to run Linux. It comes with, what do they call it?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, stopping you again. I apologize. I'm just reading through it. $13.99.
Pure OS, yes.
You get the Librem 5 phone with a compatible 24-inch monitor, keyboard, and mouse. Okay.
It is the Ubuntu Edge. That's exactly what I was saying. It is exactly the Ubuntu Edge. It's what they're going for. And in a way, I can see that because I've always liked the idea of you have your laptop in your pocket. It's your phone. You get to use it as a phone while you're out and about. Then you get home, you slide it into the dock. Boom, you've got yourself a PC.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be a very powerful PC, but it'll work for most people. And in theory, I really like that. But this isn't theory. You're literally asking for $1.5 million. No.
You know, that I could actually argue, because one thing I do like to see is when a project like this takes a look at something and gives a realistic price tag of what it would cost to ship, because a lot of stuff you see on Indiegogo, a lot of stuff you see on Kickstarter is like, this is our, see, look, people are showing us, we cover games, ladies and gentlemen, for a living. This is our Patreon show. So this is one thing, that initial Kickstarter stuff is then to go shopping for a publisher to give you an extra $1 million, $2 million. And you see a lot of that with these hardware projects, especially the ones that fail, or the ones like, there's no way they're going to be able to ship this because they'll have a goal like 500,000. And that's just interest so they can get some of that sweet, sweet VC money. But I think this is a realistic, maybe to ship the dev kits and stuff like that, but
not for the final phone, no.
Yeah, at the end of the day, this is one of those great, great ideas, way ahead of its time, and maybe a decade. Whatever form it's going to take, it's not going to look like this, though, because I think the biggest issue to adoption or to really forward momentum with projects like this is the whole idea of a dock and stuff. You just want to,
yeah.
Your mobile's in your house, and it's going to show up on your moon display and wherever you're at, and on your video walls in your house. That's kind of what everyone.
Yeah, you just like attach it to the wall, have it charge, and at the same time, it's giving you your wall home entertainment system, what have yous. And yeah, in practice, I really like that idea. I just don't see it happening with Librem. Nothing against them personally. The laptop, the Purism Librem laptop, nice piece of kit as far as I can tell. But really, phone with Linux.
The mobile OS wars are over for now. Android, iOS 1. If you're about to release a mobile OS, we all want Linux, a pure Linux device. That is the unicorn thing. But the ecosystem's already developed. I mean, unless you started development on your ecosystem a decade ago, kind of SOL right now in 2017. With this is like true end-to-end encryption and all this fun stuff. But currently in our current market, we're not talking about us. I'm not talking about you that's listening to this show. But for the people outside of the bubble, convenience trumps encryption, and the convenience is an iOS and Android right now. But I'm sure I got every single thing about everything wrong. Send us some feedback for next week's show and let us know. So, something I got to play around with.
This one a go. Tell us about it.
I did, man. GIMP 296, because, well, let's face it, stock Ubuntu basically ships with one made in the Stone Ages, but it's stable and it works.
One?
And, hey, man, listen, after you get done playing with this, you'll go back to the one made in the Stone Ages, but What's going on with this? Well, what I really like about this new version of GIMP is the experimental multi-threading GGL multi-core processing. Not just the fact that they've added it, but the developers basically said, yeah, this thing's probably going to cause everything to catch on fire, and we're going to ship it anyway. And when I hear something like that, I go, ooh, I want to go play with that now. Which I did. There's a PPA if you run the Ubuntu's. You can build it from source. Interesting fun fact about Old Man Vin. First thing I ever successfully compiled under Linux in like late 1994 or 95, early 95. Got that up and running. For me, the development build, much better support with the tool panel and high DPI running at 3840 by 2160. Made that usable, so you're not get one eye up in the corners. Like, which
all the way up against the screen. Which one am I clicking?
Right, because that's a true thing. And I did notice again, taking just a full screenshot at 3840 by 2160 UHD. It's not 4K. Exporting that, with compression level of 9, that ping with just standard GIMP took about 6 seconds. This maybe 2. So that's a good thing. Unfortunately, the UI and everything else, like most development builds, GIMP is slow to the point of you can open up a terminal, fire up HTOP, and it's like, is it doing anything? Or, yeah.
It's pegging the one it's not pegging the one thread anymore because apparently they seem really keen on having the multi-threading stuff in by GIMP 2.10. So they really want people to test it now.
No, I mean, that is a very important thing, especially with Ryzen. Multi-core is a thing now. Now that AMD is like, hey, look, Intel was just kind of jacking you over because they could. You can get a 16 threads available for, under, $90,000, exaggerating, but only slightly. The good thing about this comes from Omega Ubuntu, is if you are on the Mints or anything like that, or any of the Ubuntus, you can put the PPA in, try it out. If you don't like it, you can just nope the PPA and revert back to it stock. So try before you buy on that. Pedro, you had a lot to say about this next story.
Well, it's not about this story in particular. It's just one of my rants against, well, I'll get to it. System 76 have put out an update saying that pop, bang, underscore OS. Weekly update, 1710, distro settings and default apps. And yeah, they basically are moving their custom Ubuntu ISO. It's literally Ubuntu with a different theme. To 1710 instead of 1704. They are using a debootstrap to build like the minimal install instead of using the full thing. They claim to have significantly or substantially reduced memory usage and reduced the ISO size. Well, yeah, you're using the debootstrap. Of course you did. They're also changing some default settings. It's actually nice working stuff if you use GDM and you don't like the fact that it doesn't use your theme for some reason. They're looking into that to make everything look well defined and integrated, so that's good. And then they go on to default apps. So they are trying to get everything to work as you'd expect, as most distros actually have been doing for a while. But with Ubuntu moving from Unity to GNOME, there are some apps that fall through the cracks, so to speak, and they want to create that cohesive desktop experience. They picked out a default selection of applications. Most of them are GNOME based, of course, but there is one thing that they're actively trying to do, which is, say you get like a, let's see, how did they put it? Let's say you get a notification with a time and a place, like you would in an email that would set up a calendar on your mobile. It would automatically set up the calendar date. they are integrating that with GNOME Calendar. It would be nice. I didn't mean to smack the microphone there. Sorry. But it would be nice if instead of integrating it with GNOME Calendar, they made it work with Thunderbird because it has a built-in calendar, and then just have that calendar sync with whatever calendar your desktop environment happens to use. Make it as distro agnostic as possible, or desktop environment agnostic as possible, because at some point, the GNOME developers will change everything again just because they can.
Okay. Well, the calendar thing kind of makes sense because if you're like me and you've already just signed everything over to Google, trust me, life's easier once you do this. I completely, fully understand why you'd never want to do it, but you know, we're semi-public figures. It's like you already know everything about me anyway. Just sync with Google Calendars. Thunderbird, sync with Google Calendars. Any other application, sync with Google Calendars. Use Google Calendar. Even our scheduling system automatically syncs with Google Calendars. It wasn't automatic. It took me an entire day to set that thing up. But that's the thing. Pop's good. I understand why System 76 is doing it because, you know, like, yeah, it's this Unity thing. Now, admittedly, I was like, you guys sure you really want to double down on this Unity thing, System 76? They're like, no, man, this is the future. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Then they got burned by that, so they want to do their own thing. I understand that. They want to go their own way. They do their own hardware. Completely understandable. And it's good to see that they're making progress on it, though. I mean,
it is, and it is, as much as I will keep on giving GNOME a hard time, it's because I really used to like GNOME too, and they decided to basically let it go off a cliff and do this. I don't get GNOME 3. I just don't.
Well, one thing Linus didn't get was a job at Apple.
Oh.
Kind of surprising, yeah. This comes from Slash Gear. I just threw this in here because, you know, it's got a little break during some of the news. Apparently, Jobs offered Linus a job. And this is the funny thing. I just assumed that Jobs just wanted to get him in there to steal his liver. But if that wasn't the case, Jobs called up Linus. He's like, hey, man, would you like to come work for Apple and not work on Linux stuff? And Linus was, yeah, no, peace. And this was in the early 2000s. So, you know, Apple wasn't the juggernaut that it is now. And OS X was a couple of years
fresh
old.
Out of,
yeah. I mean, OS X built on, the Mach kernel, BSD. And when did that launch? 97, 98?
OS X came out in 2000 or 2001.
I thought it was earlier than that.
Well, I'm not entirely sure now, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was around the 2000.
Pedro, quick, run outside, absorb a Mac user, get their information.
They don't know what a computer is.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know if Jobs thought that he could. This has made me speculate. That's kind of why I wanted to talk about it. Because was he thinking, it's like, oh, you have the opportunity to work with Apple, and Linus was like, why don't you go die in a fire?
Basically.
He didn't expect that reaction, which, you know, morals, principles, pride, I understand that. Or he was like, oh, man, we need to nope this competition thing here because we decided to use, you know, not Linux. And again, Linus is like, nah, it's not going to happen. Now, here's a real question, though. I was thinking to myself when I was writing the notes for this. You get a knock on the door tomorrow, Pedro. Open it up. It's Microsoft, man. Sent by Microsoft. And he's like, check this out. You're going to get £500,000 a year. But you can't use Linux anymore, and you can only work with us on non-Linux projects.
Can't use Linux even on my own personal time.
Nope.
I tell him to F.
500,001 pounds.
No. See, if he wanted to pay me those 500,000 to use nothing but Windows and all Windowsy stuff at work for however, like, say, up to 12 hours a day. For 500,000, 12 hours a day, you get to dictate what operating system I use. That's it.
Oh, okay. Then what is your price?
I don't know.
Because don't say you don't have a price, because if you give me a locked, windowless room, a jar of mayonnaise, and a weasel, you got a price. You just haven't found it yet.
Oh, no, I'm not going to say I don't have a price, but I don't know what it is. I know that 500,000 a year would get me to use your operating system for 12 hours a day. Sure.
Temple OS, here we come. Pray I do not win the lottery. That's definitely a thing. It could have been a stranger, different world with, because Linus did work for Transmeta.
Yeah.
The thing that was definitely made. So we just threw this in here because Linux and cars and automobiles go together pretty well. That's why you have car analogies on Slashdot, right?
Yeah, those work well. We don't have Strider around. We can't make that joke. Oh, well. No, this is Mazda and Toyota working together. Two competing Japanese car makers working together to make a Linux-based infotainment system. That's a sentence I just said. It's like Japanese car companies, they're pretty competitive. And the two top ones are basically working together with Linux, one of the most fragmented communities
Pedro,
of all
look,
time.
I've highlighted on the screen why the system doesn't matter and it's going to fail. As CNET notes, the system does not support Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which means, hey, Mazda and other company, you're wasting your time, resources, and money. Because everyone, there's two things you want in your motoring vehicle. If you don't have Bluetooth, okay, you want an aux jack. That's it. Because that's one thing I hate about every vehicle I get into, these modern fancy, listen, my 2010 Jetta is like the newest car it's probably the only car I've ever owned that wasn't older than me. And it's got an infotainment type thing in it.
Yeah.
F that. I mean, it's based on QNX, which I did QNX and all that stuff, but the navigation system, that takes a lot of time, UI, research, design, and they're all different. They're backwards. At least I can sort of decrypt an iDevice and Android Autoplay. It was like, oh yeah, I kind of know this, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and assuming you have some degree of control, not a whole lot, because it's still going to be a proprietary implementation of Linux, whatever they decide to use. But it's easy enough to make that compliant with Android Play. For Mazda and Toyota to go up to Google and say, how much money do you want for that API?
Well, I do think one of the bigger issues is, are they going to comply with the GPL?
They probably will for those specific applications and APIs that they have to. Everything else, they're not.
Because I know for the Beamers, the BMWs, they will send you a burnt DVD with the source code that they've modified and used in current model BMWs. It might take 9 months to get it, but
yeah.
Yeah, Linux and embedded devices. Well, this is good to see. Okay. That's
yeah. It was actually kind of neat to see both Mazda and Toyota, usually at each other's throats, working together.
All right, let's see. What do we have? Oh, right. Before we get out of here, because we missed this last week because it hadn't happened yet.
Yes.
That's just just a quick thing, man. Happy birthday, Linux! Because we've all
26!
seen it. We've all seen it in our social medias. Everyone put the individual ingredients of the cake. And they're like, "Oh, happy birthday, Linux! Now go make the cake yourself." And like, yeah, okay, that was funny. The first 16 times I saw it, and yeah, that's definitely a thing, man. First Point release, 1994, 26 years on Linux, and it is a fun ride. It is the reason Pedro and I even met in the first place. It's the reason we do this show. It's the reason we've been doing Linux Gamecast Weekly for 5 years. Powering all this, it did made me think, man. This doesn't apply to you, Pedro. You noob, you scrub.
I only started tinkering with Linux in 2005.
What was I running in 94? I think it was Slackware back then.
That's probably one of the very few distros that actually existed, yeah.
Well, I think Slackware was the one I managed to get to boot. That's where we were. Running, operational, doing anything productive with it, that might have been a year down the road or two. But that was pretty cool. But we do have something just a little bit special for you.
Yes.
Yeah, it is GPD Pocket?
Yes.
GPD Pocket, the unibody aluminium
7-inch netbook type thing processor that has a single Type-C port.
Runs all the Linux. It's great. Our good friend Atomic has made a video for us, broke it down, gave it a review. Let's take a look.
So earlier this year, I was in the market for a new laptop. And the company known as Gamepad Digital, or GPD, had previously come out with the GPD Win, and now they were starting an Indiegogo for the GPD Pocket. And I felt since they had delivered on their promise with the GPD Win in a reasonably short amount of time, about 6 months after the campaign ended, I figured it was a safe bet that I would get my GPD Pocket in a reasonable amount of time, and it would actually be the product promised. And it is, for the most part. There's some quirks. But first, let me run through the specs so you know what this thing is. It is a 7-inch laptop, which actually puts it in the netbook category. So under the hood, we have an Intel Atom X7 Z8750, which is a quad-core CPU running at 1.6 GHz base with a boost frequency of 2.56 GHz. I found that it's just barely enough CPU power to play 1080p YouTube videos. That's about it. Now, the thing that really drove me to this, 8 gigs of RAM. I have previously bought low-end offerings from companies like Asus. This is an X205 TA, which have a variety of problems, and they're limited to 2 gigabytes of memory, which severely curtails their usefulness. The GPD Pocket, on the other hand, has a full 8 gigs of RAM, which makes it very usable for certain tasks. Going on from there, we have a 128 gigabyte eMMC flash, which is soldered onto the motherboard, so if it fails, it kills the thing, which in my testing would do around 130 to 140 megabytes a second reads. Pretty respectable. The 7-inch screen that I mentioned is a touchscreen. It's multi-touch compatible. I have not tested that in Linux yet. Its aspect ratio is 16 by 10, and it has a resolution of 1920 by 1200. That's definitely an upgrade from the bog standard 1366 by 768. The touchscreen has Corning Gorilla Glass 3, which is a little grabby. Of course, this is Intel Integrated Graphics, which is HD Graphics 405. Not the strongest stuff in Intel's lineup. It's actually the weakest stuff in Intel's lineup. The memory is shared, so it cuts in a little bit to your 8 gigs. Audio works, kind of, sort of, and it has one built-in speaker. As for connectivity, we've got 802.11a AC BGN, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz dual band. Pretty good. It supports Bluetooth 4.1, so I'm hoping I can get this controller working with it. And for connectivity, we have a USB Type-C, which is used for charging, and it also has a DisplayPort logo on it. But I don't have the proper cable to test if that actually will carry a DisplayPort. Note that it is not a Thunderbolt port. Next, we have a micro HDMI port, a headset jack, which is a 4-pole. I have yet to test that to make sure of it, and a USB 3.0 Type A port. The battery is a single-cell lithium polymer with a 7,000 milliamp hour capacity. They claim about 12 hours of battery life, and based on the rate of power consumption, I think that's fairly in line with light workloads. The keyboard is QWERTY, but it's kind of a fucking mess. You got your tab key up here, your caps lock key here, your FN key on the wrong side of the control. All of the function keys are FN keys on the numbers. Backspace and delete. What's delete doing over here? And where's the colon, semicolon? It's way the fuck down there, Brad! The chiclet keys are a little bit finicky in their presses. You really have to kind of hammer on them. Eschewing a traditional trackpad to keep the size down, they have gone with a track point, and it is reasonably close to a Lenovo track point in terms of usability. As for size, we're looking at 180 millimeters in length, 106 millimeters in depth, and 18.5 millimeters in thickness. It weighs 480 grams, and it will fit in a large pocket. It feels a little bit heavy in a pocket. It is made of CNC milled magnesium alloy. In the box, it comes with a 5-volt, 2-amp charger with a USB-C cable that is between 3 and 4 feet. For you metric folk, that's a little over a meter. Now, because I backed this on Indiegogo before they launched, I only paid $399 wet stinky. And I think it's worth $399 wet stinky. However, currently on Indiegogo, to get the same arrangement is $509. And on third-party websites, it seems like it's $599. Is it a good value at that point? I don't think so. You're really paying for the portability at that point. Well, even at $399, you're kind of paying for the portability. So, how about we talk about the negatives? This isn't an out-of-the-box, fully supported laptop like you would get from Lenovo or perhaps Dell, where you just put in your favorite distribution and it just works. No, that's not how it's going to work. Out of the box, the touchscreen doesn't work. The audio is detected, but doesn't work. Pulse audio just stays in a loop and consumes 100% of CPU all the time. Neither the Wi-Fi nor the Bluetooth works. You can't tell the state of the battery, so you don't know how much life you've got left. And with the minimal documentation, I have no idea what the power LEDs are trying to tell me with their various flashes. Speaking of LEDs, you have two LEDs in the power button here. An orange one closer to the F12 key, and a white one closer to the USB port. The orange one is to show you battery charge, and the white one is to show you that it's powered on, though it turns off when you're fully booted into the OS. The screen, because it is a generic tablet screen, is rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise by default, so your BIOS is going to show up turned to the left, which makes things a little bit difficult to navigate. And it also means that any distribution you boot up is going to be, by default, turned to the left. Now, a lot of these issues have been addressed already for some popular distributions like Arch, Ubuntu, Fedora, and Gentoo. And I'm personally helping contribute to the Solus compatibility of this. You can find a link in the description to the Ansible GPD Pocket project on GitHub, which can help add the necessary kernel modules and firmware bits to enable most of the things that don't work. And what this project does have working is the touchscreen, though I don't know if it works with multi-touch. The audio works, kind of, sort of, but it's not very loud. Along with the audio, the headset jack does work as well, though it has the same problem as a speaker. It has very low output, so it doesn't drive headphones all that well. The Wi-Fi works, and it seems to be pretty stable, but on my 5 gigahertz wireless network, it only seems to want to connect at 24 megabits, which is a little bit slow. So with all that said, can you game on it? Yeah. Steam will install, and I can play The Binding of Isaac Rebirth on it. I haven't tried any heavier games. I'm going to see if Rocket League will play, but I suspect it probably won't. With the limited bandwidth from the Wi-Fi, I don't think it's going to do Steam in-home streaming too well, but on Amazon you can pick up these little Anchor 3-port USB 3 hubs with built-in gigabit Ethernet, and in my testing, they will do over 300 megabits on the CPU. So maybe if you wanted to do wired networking, that could work out. The battery is replaceable in theory. You will notice 6 Phillips number 0 screws on the bottom, and the bottom panel does come off. It does have to pop off, though. And inside is the battery, which is glued down. You can cut that glue and replace the battery if it ever runs out on you. It's a single cell. It only takes 2 wires because you don't have any management on the battery cell itself. So if you wanted something that truly lasted forever, you could probably find a huge prismatic cell that you could just stick in there. And the management being on the motherboard, that would work out pretty well. And just a little note, the display opens up almost to 180 degrees. Almost. So in conclusion, it's a good little machine, but you are paying for the privilege of portability. Down a fire, everyone.
That was truly horrifying.
It was beautiful,
Pedro.
except for Atomic's face. That could use.
I feel like I'm sterile. I hope everyone enjoyed that. No, man.
Yeah.
Good job, Atomic. Thanks for doing that for us. I'm sure everyone enjoyed it. But we need to thank the people that make this show possible. We need to thank our bosses, Pedro, the people who pay our bills.
Because for some reason, people keep giving us money. And if you feel like you're being left out, you're not giving us money, you're not giving us anything, well, you can. You can go to linuxgamecast.com, you hit the support button, and you have a multitude of different ways. If you don't want to give us money directly, there's an Amazon wish list link there. Ven is trying to build a Studio 2.0, Box of Business 3.0. Actually, most of the stuff for Box of Business 3.0 have already been acquired. It remains to be seen how the Silicon Lottery will work out. But yeah, that is mostly done. But there's still a lot of stuff left to get the studio going. So you can just, if you have some
Pedro,
Amazon reward points.
Everyone's going to miss me being cramped into this little room, shoved into a corner.
No, all the space goes for green screen and nothing else.
I mean, but if we do that, we'll be able to expand and add new shows. No, that's madness, man. Quit being crazy. You scared me, man.
But
let's talk about the patrons, man.
Indeed. So if you do want to give us some money, the way you should do it is going to patreon.com/LinuxGamecast and join those 110 insane people who keep giving us money every single week. And if you do, you get early access to all the videos, all the stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen, it sounds better if you replace "give us money" with "help support the show." This is a very
oh no, brutal honesty.
But you do get things like Pedro Pokes a Rocket. He did that. It's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. You're going to get access to our Discord. You're going to get access to some things that we're still playing around with, some of our alphas, some of our betas. You get your own custom RSS feed for our pre-super shows and some other things that we do that never see the light of day except for your beautiful ears. And on top of that, but wait, there might be more. If you like our uncut versions, you get those 3 days before everyone. Basically our pre-show, our post-show, all that stitched together. But don't worry, man. Times might be tough and all that. And listen, I don't back every single podcast I listen to on Patreon either. I currently support 4 on Patreon, you know. So
I support 2.
2. I do 2 more than you. So I'm more caring and generous. Spread the love. Support those who support Linux. If it's not us, find another show. Do that. Help get the word out. Love, like, reshare. But some people sent us some beautiful things. But did we had some new members to our slightly disjointed
the
family.
Admiral JT started kicking us a few shackles over on Patreon, as did Pennywise. So thank you very much to the both of you. But the Admiral, not content with just being an awesome party Patreon, he decided to go up on Frank's fine, upstanding cannibal wall.
Wait, Frank, say it 30.
You got Frank?
Boom, there he is.
Oh,
Hey,
Magic Frank. Yep.
Frank, yeah, he's here. This is a holography. It's kind of like Star
An
Wars.
updated one because yes, the Admiral is there, but Jason Terry is not.
Terry is not. But you do this. The FUC, fine, upstanding cannibal. See, I didn't curse.
It's the whoop.
Will be in every incarnation of our studio, including this is going to be the original one that's going to be framed up and including Kansas when we finally get there. But yeah, man, Admiral also, this is practical. We're not buying cool stuff for us to play with. We're legitimately trying to build out a big not big, big for us studio, so we can start doing more.
Bigger.
But hey, man, he picked us up a cord concealer. This is going to be practical because I figured out that if somebody's going to fall, we'll never get it on camera. Then it's just wasted. We wouldn't like that. And out of nowhere, Jason Terry, sent us another one of these really cool USB hubs because they have individual on and off switches. And that is
actually really neat.
That's really cool. These things are not expensive. I recommend these because I currently have one. They're like $4 or $5, and that's it. And no, do keep in mind, I think they're only USB 1.0, so they're not for drives or anything, but small devices and gerbils and stuff like that. That's it. Thanks everyone for shopping through our affiliate links on Amazon. Those add up. Can't thank everyone enough for that because I always forget that we have the affiliate link. You don't have to do anything.
I haven't. I have it bookmarked, so whenever I type Amazon into the URL, it always shows up with the affiliate code.
It's pretty wild, man, and that helps out. That helps out so much, and that's the best we can do. Okay, that's our best song and dance for.
We have shilled for ourselves, and we really do appreciate all of you helping us make this better.
It's crazy. It's kind of crazy when you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, so we're over 5,000 downloads from last week. Now it's 6. Okay. Let's have Slice Pie.
Indeed. And as usual, someone has bought all of the Raspberry Pi Zeros, or in this case, the Raspberry Pi Zero W's.
You with this negativity, the first thing I see in these notes is pictures like, rare, that's where they all go. As opposed to somebody buying it and ending up in the drawer 2 days later, this person's actually using them.
Yeah, but when you buy it and it ends up in a drawer, it's usually 1, maybe 2. In this case, person bought 27. Why? They wanted to make a 3D scanner. And kudos on them, they did. And they tell you exactly, this is on Instructables.com. They tell you exactly what you need to do, what you'll need to download, everything, so you can make your own 3D scanner. That's why they're always out of stock. There's 27 Raspberry Pi Zeros, Zero W's.
You know, the 27 SD cards at 16 gigs is not cheap.
You probably don't need them to be that fast since you're getting a bunch of different cameras. Don't need to be that high res.
Yeah, I mean, it's got all the code, all the setup for it. Can you think of any uses for this that would be PG-13 or under?
No. There will be genitalia involved with a 3D scanner whenever there is one that's been homemade.
I mean, I don't know what I'd use a scanner. I guess there's a way that might help with like prototyping.
Yeah, prototyping, and say you had an accident, all of a sudden you are missing an arm. And the best way to actually make or get the measurements correct for the other arm is to take like a symmetrical copy of your one good arm and then just mirror it. So that could be useful if you then want to, at home as well, 3D print yourself a new arm, which some people are actually doing nowadays. It's insane.
Arthur, we could do a 3D frig, or 3D printing or laser cutting, which I had that experience earlier this week of somebody saying very crudely to me, "What have you done to the CNC machine?" Which is always followed by, "You're the one that let me use it."
Yeah.
I mean, that's my 100% fail-safe defense anytime I didn't jack it up that bad. So, moving on with Pi news. Pew Pew Pi, Nerf gun ammo. This is totally something I would have done when I was like 12 or 13 or 34.
Yes.
Yeah, this is what it is. A rangefinder and ammo counter for your Nerf gun. Why? Because expletive deleted. That's why.
Yeah, why not?
It's cool. It's neat. Pi Mori, using this, pretty easy. What do you need? Rainbow hat, Pi Zero resistor kit. Oh, so ultrasonic sensor. I actually have some of those. cable ties. Yeah, SD card. Nothing in here is crazy. 1,000 LiPo.
Mm-hmm.
Really? No. I'm going to be ordering a rainbow hat. I don't have a use for that, but I want one now.
Yeah.
Yeah, build one of these. Don't build one of these in school.
Not in school, but if you have that one Raspberry Pi lying around that you just don't know what to do with, build yourself an ammo counter for that one Nerf gun that you have as well.
I want this, but I'm not going to do this because I would totally do this, and this would. Then
and the guy who made this, actually, he needs some help with figuring out, like, say, when you reload, it needs to be able to tell that the clip is full and that you've just inserted a new clip into the gun so that the counter resets to whatever you set it to. It's probably have something at the bottom of the clip as you're shoving the Nerf darts into it. The moment it taps at the bottom and you slide it in, oh look, it's full and it's back in the gun. So yeah, it resets. Something like that.
Mine's just going to scream monster because that's totally going to be a thing. When I see something like that, I kind of want to contact the guy and see if he wants to take the Linux Weekly Daily Wednesday TSA challenge, which is where you try to run through the TSA gate with your device. And not
Raspberry Pi device,
right,
yes.
and basically not get disappeared by the government.
Okay.
Call me.
And the last one is actually just a quick mention, because every now and again we'll mention that it would be really neat if someone just shoved a Raspberry Pi into the back of a TV.
It would, and I always see things like this, and I was like, man, this is my one of these days projects, ladies, and because
and the fine folks that Make Use Of actually went out and found the 4 Raspberry Pi smart TV projects that they like the best. And you can there's also a bunch of different articles about it, but yeah, they give you several different ones and they're all really neat. Most of them are either Kodi based or Plex based. Fair enough, I guess. Both of those run on the Pi, and they have a lot of content in them, some more legal than others.
Well, Kodi kind of cracked down on that finally. Yeah. That was just so blatant. They were on eBay too. It's like, this one comes with all the channels, and Kodi's like, yeah, I guess we better do something. You think? And I got to be honest with you, my get around to it one day is slowly diminished because the article does bring up a very good point of we got Chromecast.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this as somebody I started with Myth TV. Okay.
Yeah, I never really used that.
I was building those back in the day with a Honopage TV tuner cards. I even had a cable card at one point. And then now I've had Plex servers for whatever. I got an upstairs Plex and a downstairs Plex. But I tend to use my Plex server rarely nowadays because everything I have is available streaming, and I can Chromecast everything in my house because Chromecast are like $35.
Cheaper if you get them on sale. They're usually like 20. So Chromecasts are really neat if all you need to do is media consumption. But let's say you don't have a whole lot of means and you just have the one Raspberry Pi. You use it at the back of your TV, and it can be both the smart TV terminal and a server at the same time for all your other devices, because hey, it's a Raspberry Pi. It can do it.
It can do it, and it's always neat. Hey everyone, this has been real. We love talking to you, but we like it when you talk back to us. Pedro, tell the beautiful people how they could go about doing such insanity.
It's very easy. You can literally approach us on the street and scream at us, although I would appreciate it if you didn't do that.
Be careful doing that, because Pedro will hug you.
Let's just say I really like when people recognize me on the street, so no, the best way to do it is actually going over to linuxgamecast.com, filling out the clicking on the contact button, making sure you pick LWDW from the little drop-downy box, and filling out the form. It's really easy. The hardest bit would be to figuring out Ven's CAPTCHA, But outside of that, it's really easy. And chances are, if you do leave us a comment on YouTube or on one of the social networks, if it's relevant, we will feature it right here.
Now, one thing I think we should mention, though, send us a message on Patreon, or if you leave a comment on a video on Patreon, that's going to get answered. This is prioritization because, again, you're our bosses, and that's how that works. You send it through our contact form on the site. Guaranteed to at least look at it. You leave a comment on YouTube, it's last but not least is what that is. We might see it, we might not. So you're rolling the dice on that one. But what do we have? Just got one in this week that was kind of interesting, talking about your laptop video.
Oh, yes. Kyle Linux, he asked some recording questions. Great review. No, it wasn't. It could have been better. Do you guys use GU VC View to record videos via webcam? If not, what software would you recommend? Apologies if you guys mentioned this in an episode that I missed. Thanks. Also, do more reviews like this. This was pretty cool. Awesome. I actually very much plan on doing more reviews like that.
Done and done. You put one out today, buddy.
At the moment I have some fancy new equipment to do reviews with. Let's just say there may have been one about a mouse or a gerbil, whatever
I've already
you want to call
ordered you the butter churn.
Well, I probably Nori she's much better when it comes to cakes than I am, so I would probably let her do that one.
Hi, I'm going to go up and get in the other room. That's how far I'm not touching that one. So what do you use, Pedro? I mean, do you just, I honestly, personally, I don't know what Pedro uses. I'm assuming you use OBS.
Yes, the V2 4L, V2, the
Video for Linux 2.
Yes, Video for Linux 2.
V4L. The thing I had to compile because I updated my kernel this week, kids.
Mm-hmm. V4L2 is built into OBS, so they have that support. If you just plug in your webcam, you can set it to, well, you could basically set it as a window instead of having to use GUVC View separately and then capturing that window or just doing a region capture and cropping.
Mm-hmm. That works. OBS is probably, when it comes to ease of use and best quality, because GUC View is junk. All right, that's basically.
It's good for like getting the colors on your webcam slightly
it's good
more
for
realistic.
Color adjustment. Yes. Okay.
Yes. But outside of that, you don't want to use it.
Yeah, that's pretty much its use case. I just use FFmpeg because
you've been using it all your
life. Yeah, I can just type it out and it makes sense. And a lot of it's tab completion these days because it's already there. It's not a big deal. Recording on Linux pretty easy. Maybe we'll throw together some guides on just some of the ways we do that. Once I get all this junk moved and reorganized, where I won't feel where I can do a nice over-the-shoulder shot. Mm-hmm. And actually show the desktops and stuff like that. I think Pedro, I'm going to do some guides because right now I publicly don't want to show the rat's nest of wires and cables that have accumulated.
Oh yeah. If you watch the mouse review video thingy, the desk looks sort of clean outside of the keyboard and the mouse.
That's because you cleaned off the area and pushed everything immediately outside.
I literally pushed everything off to the side.
That's everyone's when you're taking that picture anywhere. You're like, "Where's a clean spot at?" There's one. Okay, let's get this lined up. Okay. I'm still gonna have to crop that one a little bit, but don't worry about it. All right, that's gonna do it for us. It's been fun. It's been real. We'll be back Saturday, 9:30. But Jordan's gonna come back Thursday. That would be tomorrow then. And I don't know what we're going to do. He's on holiday this week, so we might do another thing because we all got together yesterday and we played Half-Life 2 co-op.
Yeah, with a Synergy mod.
Yeah, Synergy mod.
That was a buggy mess.
Well, outside of the initial 5 minutes, skip through that, if you want to go back and watch that once I was able to move, it got a little bit better. That was fun. We might be doing some maybe Cards Against Huge Manatees or maybe some Google Feud Thursday. I'm not 100%. It's depending on what my schedule looks like, if I can get everything set up to do it, but we'll be in contact with all those. And we did do a new Left for Brad Ninja stream because there was a new button on Patreon that I wanted to poke and see what it did. We found out what it did, and apparently what it did was not notify everybody that we had did the thing. Mm-hmm. We apologize for that, but that stream is there and it's available. But until next week, beautiful people, I've been Vin Stone, at Vin Stone on the Twitter. Yeah.
Twitter. Yeah. Twit is the network that does. Yeah,
are you going to
I am Pedro Mateus. You probably watched Twit far longer than I have, yes. You can find me at unaccounted for on Twitter, plus Pedro Mateus, Google+. It's pretty easy.
Okay. See you then.
Bye.
Credits.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me. When is the new season of... oh, God. The name disappeared. It was in my head.
Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays? A Netflix original series? What?
Yes, the Netflix original series, but yeah, no, that's just the second season that's supposed to be coming up.
What, Stranger Things?
Yes. Oh, God, thank you.
Yeah, it was annoying me, you not knowing it, but I could have held that longer.
No, it's... My brain doesn't like names every now and again. It forgets.
Frank.